This is Gradowski of WeAreChange.org here in Bali, which I just finished 2 videos specifically about. But in this video, we are going to do another What the Hell Really Happened video, specifically talking about Donald Trump's alleged meeting with the Taliban, the price of oil going up, all of this on the eve of 9/11 as we have new information coming to light. And of course, we're also going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein, the story that you think can't surprise you anymore, with new surprising details. We're also going to get into a little bit of news at the end of the show about mushrooms that actually even surprised me. All of this brought to you for free because of you supporting us by buying a t-shirt. Just by simply wearing a t-shirt that you believe in, spreading the message, you at the same time get involved and participate in the fight for free speech, as of course we face massive censorship efforts. Since of course we talk about all the things that very powerful special interests don't want us to talk about. So yeah, if you see a t-shirt you like, don't forget to pick them up on our store with the link in the description below. Now, continuing on with the news, a very important American anniversary is coming up, and that of course is the anniversary of 9/11, something that is also very crucial and important for me. Specifically knowing a lot of people who were affected by 9/11, being in New York City on 9/11, breathing in a lot of that dust. This day has very severe ramifications, not just for me, but specifically for America and the path that it is on because of that fateful day. Most importantly, a day that was never properly investigated. Something that many people that I know, whether it's family members, rescue workers, or survivors, had many questions about that were never answered by the government. And now we are learning that this could be the doing of Robert Mueller himself, who was head of the FBI during 9/11. This, of course, is the same Robert Mueller that, again, was a part of the whole Russian collusion investigation that turned out to be a complete and utter sham. And when you look at the exact information, specifically also in this article and everything coming to light, it's not really Russian collusion that we had to worry about, but specifically Saudi Arabian collusion. Now, of course, there's also the Turkish and Israeli government collusion, but we're just going to focus on Saudi Arabia right now because there's a new lawsuit right now that details and talks about how Robert Mueller allegedly, just saying that for legal purposes, allegedly covered up evidence pointing directly to the Saudi embassy, specifically dealing with foreign intelligence officers that he covered up. There's even a survivor quoted in here that said, quote, "He was the master when it came to covering up the kingdom's role in 9/11, how Mueller threw up roadblocks to stop the investigation while making it easier for Saudi suspects to escape questioning." And this is according to multiple case agents. And then according to this lawsuit, whatever evidence did come forward, he made sure it never saw the day of light. There's even information from a Joint Terrorism Task Force officer in San Diego that said, quote, that it was Mueller himself who prevented the arrest of Saudi-sponsored Al-Qaeda clerics who worked with the Saudi hijackers. You know, the 15 that came from Saudi Arabia, not from Afghanistan. The same Afghanistan that Donald Trump even says the United States will, quote, always have a presence. Again, this is a complete 180-degree turn before he came into office, what he promised to what he is doing right now. And it's kind of funny. You look at Bush, you look at Obama, you look at Trump, all promised non-interventionalism, promised to end the wars, promised not to start wars, and all of them lied. And again, the conspiracy just gets even shadier and darker when you look at big galvanizing events like 9/11 that create these wars, specifically with the major cover-ups that did take place, preventing the American people from finding out the truth around that very, very important day that is still deciding our foreign policy. And the cover-up runs deep, and it's done in large part by the mainstream media that ultimately propped it up Mueller as some kind of savior, as some kind of hero that was going to investigate Russian collusion when again, as if you would have known it if you were watching this channel, we were calling him out for being the dirtiest dogs out of all the dogs in Washington D.C. I mean, just think about this. It took him only 3 weeks 3 weeks as head of the FBI to conclude and finish his investigation into 9/11. And then how long did it take him to investigate Russiagate and just that stupid, destructive waste of time? Makes you wonder about a lot of different things. Now, in a similar topic, if you remember, 2 days ago we reported to you a new scientific study that took 4 years to do at the University of Alaska that talked about how there was no way Building 7 came down due to fire. This was a study, an academic journal that worked together with architects and engineers and concluded this finding that contradicted the official story, just like many official stories from that day, officially contradicted. And it looks like the media silence has been broken, not by the most reputable news organizations, but finally, the Express in the United Kingdom decided to report on this breakthrough scientific study and actually report on it, which is a major victory that this is finally getting out of the independent media bubble that, of course, is censored by Google and Facebook and Twitter and pretty much just censored and shut down. I mean, if you look at what's been happening behind the scenes to us, it is astounding that still somehow we're still going, and we're only going because of you. But finally, it broke out of the independent media kind of circle and is being taken seriously by some news organization. And again, it's extremely important to question all of this because the narratives, the kind of programming and propaganda that were sold to absolutely makes no sense at all. Specifically, now continuing on and jumping into the Taliban story, the official story that we were told is that men in caves halfway across the world hated us for our freedoms, therefore they decided to attack us. Well, if they hated us for our freedoms, they must love us now, don't they? Since we eviscerated all of our freedoms, since we destroyed all of our freedoms, including the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Yeah, right? That would make logical sense if you actually look at what they're trying to sell to you. And no, that's not the case. As of course, Donald Trump just a few days ago promised to keep troops indefinitely in Afghanistan. This on the heels, as allegedly there was supposed to be a meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and the former U.S.-supported organization that used to fight the Russians for the United States, the Taliban, to come together. A meeting that was supposed to take place at Camp David and to somehow find a resolution, somehow to ease tension, somehow to try to find a solution, to the endless war that's not ending, that one? Well, yeah. Well, allegedly, according to insider sources, this was an actual meeting that the idea of was thrown around, and because of pressure from mainly neocon and mainstream media figures and heavy criticism, this meeting was canceled, which made the Taliban respond by vowing to keep fighting in Afghanistan with their official spokesperson. I can't believe they even have an official spokesperson saying that they will do so for the next 100 years, warning that, of course, more Americans will perish. It's kind of interesting that this thing had the opposite effect of, peace talks here. But in my opinion, just really shows you who's kind of in charge here. And sadly, with this continued tit for tat, with total lack of diplomacy, you could be rest assured that this very convenient problem for the military-industrial complex will just keep happening. It's almost, as if it was all being done on purpose here. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? And with this being something that John Bolton, bloodthirsty neocon chicken hawk, supposedly vehemently opposed, this is something that I believe ultimately is a move in the wrong direction, since anything that John Bolton opposes is usually the right thing to do. And honestly speaking here, I do believe that a lot of these major decisions do have some kind of effect with Trump's kind of grandeur and ego, which is so much in play when it comes to personal spats that he has with celebrities that are unfolding right now that are absolutely ridiculous. And when you look at someone who has a big ego, if you understand that ego, they are always very easily controlled and manipulated, which I do believe chief war hawks have attributed that factor and could be one of the reasons why we have the current foreign policy that we have that is the complete opposite of what Donald Trump promised. Since, of course, it's a Israel and Saudi Arabia first foreign policy that ultimately doesn't serve the United States in any way, shape, or form. Now, talking about Saudi Arabia, we also have news that they will also cut oil production in an attempt to, of course, raise the price of energy around the world to allegedly shore up the falling prices. This, of course, comes from the United States producing a vast amount of energy, of oil, through fracking. And it's interesting seeing this kind of dichotomy play out, since we know the U.S.-Saudi petrodollar plays a significant role on the world stage, on the backdrop of Russia and China trying to, of course, take away some of that hegemony for themselves. But that's a whole another complex issue. But you should be aware of the fact that Saudi Arabia will cut some of its production. There will be a slight effect on the market of oil, which might be some very important information. And geopolitically, we will break it down later when it has more of a significance on this YouTube channel. Now, moving forward to more news that just has you completely dumbfounded and questioning the absolute logic, because there is none. There's just criminality, especially when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, because we are finding out that no one other than Bill Gates, who, by the way, had meetings and connections to Jeffrey Epstein that he refuses to explain himself about. Well, we're also finding out that Bill Gates actually made donations to MIT through Jeffrey Epstein for some reason. Again, also, it was the same kind of weird excuse by Bill Gates that he was, quote, learning about philanthropy from Epstein. Why is the world's richest man trying to get money advice from Jeffrey Epstein, of all people? But again, this raises a bigger question. Why was Bill Gates directed by Jeffrey Epstein to donate $2 million for this specific research that happened in 2014? And of course, there's a massive cover-up effort to hide the exact dealings and workings of Jeffrey Epstein when it comes to the top, quote, learning institutions in the United States that are really just indoctrination camps. But when it comes to the top research education facilities in the United States, Jeffrey Epstein had his hands in many of them. And now they are concealing and covering up what he was doing there, to the point where now the MIT director of Media Labs has resigned over all of this. The Brown University director was put on leave after this report came out that covered up his role and connection to these, quote, institutions of alleged higher learning. And again, there must have been something extremely sinister happening that there's such a cover-up because of it, with other people's careers still being destroyed because of these previous efforts. And again, these people have a vast amount of money, and they use it to cover up the most unimaginable, horrible acts that could be committed in this world. And again, people like Prince Andrew, if there wasn't a guiltier case, if there wasn't so much overwhelming evidence, it's just absolutely ridiculous how this supposed royalty is still able to walk freely, in my opinion, in this world. And he's using that vast amount of power, that vast amount of money, to try to cover up as much as he can. Even recently being seen with a celebrity reputation management lawyer in order to somehow save face, in order to somehow cover up the overwhelming amount of evidence that directly points to this man doing god-awful, acts, which of course he is accused of by many different individuals. And there's a lot of these individuals. This is a recent one. This one by a Dutch ex-model that claims that Epstein's fixer forced himself on her, and links, of course, with Harvey Weinstein, which wouldn't surprise me because really look at how things are done in Hollywood and DC. It's really just one big lawless club that is just above the law, that just thinks that they could do anything that they want, whenever they want, no matter how horrendous it is, and do it in a way where there would never be any kind of retribution. So yeah, that's not a very light topic, specifically to end on. We're going to end on something else. We're going to end on one final last article, and that is a new scientific study that finds mushrooms, specifically the extract of polypore mushroom, help honeybees fight diseases and viruses, and may lead a way to prevent the highly infectious viruses that have been wiping out honeybee populations all over the world. So yeah, fungi. Who would have thought that mushrooms have such amazing healing qualities? Okay, all right, that's it for me. It's late here. Going to be getting on a flight back to Anarcho, Philadelphia, which I will be speaking at. If you want to go to that, tickets are 5% off if you use the promo code WRC. Hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. If you did, share it with your friends and family members, because if you don't, pretty much no one else will see this. That's the truth. So thank you, all you amazing human beings who allow me to continue to do this and allow these kinds of videos, this type of information, to get out there throughout all the different filters that are there. Because you guys do that, I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on WeAreChange.org.